This is what happens when you take two things most people toss in the garbage: wood ash from your fireplace and used tea bags from your kitchen, and turn them into a free liquid fertilizer for your garden. Wood ash alone gives you a roughly 0.13 NPK ratio, and tea fills the nitrogen gap that ash completely lacks. No store-bought products, no cost, just waste you already have sitting around, a bucket of water, and about a week of patience. And if you've ever tried banana peel fertilizer or comfrey tea and wondered whether there's something more balanced, this is worth your attention. Before we get into the recipe, you need to understand why this pairing actually works. Real science backs it up, but a lot of garbage information floats around online too, and I want to separate those two things for you right now. Wood ash is not some mysterious ingredient. Oregon State University Extension and Wisconsin Horticulture, among other university extension services, have tested it thoroughly. And clean hardwood ash contains roughly 5% potassium, 20 to 25% calcium, 1 to 2% phosphorus, and 1 to 6% magnesium. On the NPK scale, that reads approximately 0.13. Pay attention to that 0, because I'll come back to it in a minute. Trace amounts of boron, copper, zinc, manganese, and iron round out the profile. What matters most about wood ash is its alkalinity, which sits between 10 and 12 on the pH scale, and that makes it a powerful liming agent. Its calcium carbonate equivalent, or CCE, runs between 25 and 59%, while agricultural lime lands around 90 to 95%, which means you need roughly 2 to 4 times more ash than lime to get the same pH correction. The trade-off works in your favor though, because wood ash dissolves faster and reacts more quickly than ground limestone, so your soil pH shifts sooner. Back to that 0 in the NPK. When wood burns, nitrogen and sulfur escape as gases, gone completely, and what stays behind are the alkali and alkaline earth metals like potassium, calcium, magnesium, and sodium, all sitting there as carbonates, oxides, and hydroxides. Potassium, calcium, and trace nutrients come through, but nitrogen does not survive combustion at all. And that is exactly where tea fills the gap. Peer-reviewed measurements put nitrogen content in tea leaves at roughly 3.5 to 5% of dry weight, and tea leaves also carry tannins, with black tea running about 11 to 15% tannin content. Brewed black tea registers a mildly acidic pH of around 5 to 5.5, which means combining the two creates a useful balance. The tea's mild acidity partially buffers the ash's extreme alkalinity, while the nitrogen partially offsets the ash's complete lack of it. This is the same reason comfrey tea works as a standalone fertilizer, by the way, nitrogen-rich plant material steeped in water, but without the potassium and calcium punch that ash brings to this combination. I do want to level with you on one thing. Claims online give tea some impressive NPK numbers, 4.4% nitrogen being the most common. But I tracked those numbers back and they trace to a hobbyist composting website, not a scientific study. The frequently cited University of Florida study can't be verified either, so treat those viral numbers with skepticism. What we can honestly say is that tea contributes some nitrogen and organic matter, and the steeped liquid works as a mild supplement rather than a replacement for proper fertilizer. If you're getting value from this, do me a favor and hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's a good time because it helps the channel more than you'd think. Let's get into the actual recipe. You want clean hardwood ash, and oak or maple work best, because hardwoods produce more ash and more nutrients per pound than softwoods. Only use ash from untreated, unpainted, unstained wood, and never touch ash from pressure-treated lumber, charcoal briquettes, or any commercial source. That's not overcaution, because contaminated ash carries elevated levels of cadmium, lead, chromium, and nickel. For the tea component, stick to loose-leaf or verified plastic-free bags only. A 2019 McGill University study, led by Laura Hernandez and senior author Hernandez Tufenkji, found that steeping a single plastic tea bag at brewing temperature releases billions of micro and nanoplastic particles into the liquid. A German federal institute later challenged the methodology, and the exact particle counts remain scientifically debated, but the underlying phenomenon holds up. If you're pouring this on food crops, pull the leaves out of the bag and throw away anything that isn't pure paper or plant fiber, and make sure you remove all staples and strings while you're at it. The process itself stays simple. Measure about a half cup of clean hardwood ash per gallon of water, and use rainwater over chlorinated tap water if you can get it. Tie the ash in cheesecloth or an old cotton sock, drop it in, toss in your loose tea leaves, and let the whole thing steep. Give it a stir every day or two, and after about a week, strain everything out and dilute what's left at roughly 1 part concentrate to 10 parts water. That's your finished product. Worth mentioning that the 7-day time frame works as a practical guideline rather than some precise scientific threshold. Nutrient leaching kicks in within about 24 hours, and a full week gives you a reasonably complete extraction without overcomplicating it. Application is where most people mess up. You cannot pour this on everything in your garden, and knowing which plants benefit makes the difference between helping and harming. Tomatoes, peppers, garlic, onions, carrots, and other root crops, broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, asparagus, lavender, and roses all respond well to this brew. The calcium in the ash helps prevent blossom end rot in tomatoes, which alone justifies the effort for a lot of growers. What you absolutely must avoid treating are blueberries, azaleas, rhododendrons, camellias, hollies, ferns, and potatoes. Blueberries thrive at a soil pH between 4 and 5, and this brew pushes pH in the opposite direction. Potatoes present a different problem entirely because wood ash worsens potato scab. Keep the solution away from seedbeds too, since the soluble salt content can block germination and burn young roots. If you take one thing from this entire video, let it be this: test your soil first. A simple tool like the luster leaf rapid test will tell you within minutes whether your soil pH is even a candidate for this treatment. Any soil already sitting at or above a pH of 7 should never receive this treatment. Overapplication spikes the pH, locks out iron and available nitrogen through a process called chelation failure, where nutrients are essentially bound up and unavailable to plant roots, and your plants start yellowing because they can no longer absorb what they need, and they essentially starve even in nutrient-rich ground. I'll link the Canadian field study in the description so you can verify the numbers yourself. Extension recommendations on application rates range from 5 to 20 pounds of dry ash per 1,000 square feet per year, depending on the source, so start on the conservative end and adjust from there. One piece of history that fits perfectly here. The word potash literally translates to pot ash, drawn from the Middle Dutch potassium, and the element potassium took its name from that same word, while the chemical symbol K traces back to the Latin kalium, itself rooted in the Arabic term for plant ashes. And here's the part that catches people off guard. The very first United States patent ever issued, Patent Number 1, signed on July 31, 1790, by George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Edmund Randolph, went to a man named Samuel Hopkins for an improved method of making potash and pearl ash. This substance carried so much value in the colonial economy that it became the first American invention the government chose to protect. So the honest answer to whether this qualifies as liquid gold comes down to your situation. If you heat with wood and drink tea, free potassium, calcium, and a mild nitrogen source are sitting in your trash right now. On acidic soil, wood ash delivers real results, and a 4-year Canadian field study backs that up, with ash application boosting barley yields by 49%, canola by 59%, and pea by 55% on soil that started at a pH of 4.9. Those numbers came from controlled research, not a blog post. This brew works as a supplement though, not a silver bullet. Test your soil, apply conservatively, use it on the right plants, and enjoy the fact that something headed for the landfill now feeds your garden at zero cost. If this helped you out, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next, and drop a comment below letting me know whether you're going to try this. If you've already been putting wood ash to work in your garden, tell me what kind of results you've seen, because I'd genuinely like to hear it. Thanks for watching.